Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. It's been a long time, but the Games Club is officially back. This was supposed to be our August game, guys, so we kind of slacked off a little bit. But we played the wonderful game of Bastion, and we are finally here with you guys all to talk a little bit about it, what we liked, what we didn't like, why we thought this was such a cool title. How did we come about this, guys? The category was RPG, and we said
Mhm.
to ourselves, let's do something light, right? I think the idea was let's
Ye-
do something small.
Yeah, I think one of the other game choices I think was going to be that it was the one where you're like a store clerk and then you go out and try to be a hero at night type of thing.
Moonlighter, yes.
Moonlighter.
Yeah.
I think we were trying to find a game that was cheap. Yeah, I think it was supposed to be kind of a cheap RPG or something.
Well, Bastion definitely scratched the itch of being a kind of fun action role-playing game. I thought it's a little old, released July 20th of 2011, which, if you think about it, is now 7 years plus. But it is available on the PC, Switch, PlayStation Vita, Xbox, pretty much every console that you'd want to play it on, which is cool because it is a good game. If you can pick it up for a good price, I know I'll save my official kind of final score for it as we get into the review. But I quite enjoyed Bastion. I thought it was a fun one to play.
Yeah, and it's one of those that has like that art style that ages really well, so it doesn't look old.
Very true, very true. We're going to talk about all that and more. But first, we want to thank Supergiant Games, the developers of Bastion. If any of them happen to find this review, you guys did an excellent job. Thank you guys for making this. Fun fact, you guys may not have known, Supergiant Games, this game was made by a team of 7 people. So a pretty small team that kind of went together and made this pretty acclaimed RPG. I believe it does have quite a few accolades to it. So I figured we'd start a little bit about the game, just kind of talking about some of the weapons involved, and then we'd go into some of our finer points. And I'll pull up some gameplay here as we get into it. So as we go through this, I want to hear what you guys' favorite weapon was and which one you probably used the least. Because in our melee section, you start obviously with the hammer, and then you get yourself the pike, the flame billow, the war machete. Um, I know for me, the war machete was my bread and butter. I love being up there and just hack and slash, taking those enemies down. That was probably my favorite. What do you think, Aaron? What was your preferred melee weapon?
Mine, my preferred melee was initially it was the war machete because the hack and slash get up there, but I liked the hammer, just the big ass hammer and swinging it around and just crushing everything. But even though the hammer was my favorite, I do believe I used the machete the most. It was more justifiable in some of the missions than the slow hitting hammer.
It definitely felt like there were some guys out there that just had the health pool that you had to really break through. I wanted to like the pike. It was fun. I used it when I first got it, but I just didn't feel like it was working the way that I wanted to play the game.
It's funny because I actually use the pike a lot.
Ah, well,
Yeah, I switched between the hammer and the pike quite a bit. I did not like the machete because it was like so close range, and I felt like you can't really move with it very well. Unlike the hammer, where you can kind of dash around when you hit, and then the pike has obviously the best range out of all of them.
so movement was definitely a big part of the game, and I want to talk a little bit more about that as we get into some kind of video of us playing, just so you guys can see firsthand kind of how the game flows. But before I move on, Goose, were you a flame bellower? I don't think anybody
I
was.
was machete all the way. The second I got the machete, I was like, I have found my new home. I couldn't swing the hammer. It was stand still to deal more damage. I was like, that sounds awful. I just want to chop things.
Let me see if I can actually, maybe I can open it over here. Yeah, I might be able to. Oh, it doesn't want to play. I was hoping I could open up your GIF that you had here and show
Mm-hmm.
everybody.
I think if you download it from Discord, it opens up.
I'll maybe do that here. Oh yeah, this is what it's trying to do. Here we go. So this is Goose's machete. Now you did some.
I did not do some. So I didn't use a regular controller. Normally, you're supposed to be tapping the button every time you want to slice. I have a Steam controller, so you can macro the buttons. So I set it to auto tap as fast as possible and had to adjust the inputs till I got to the point where the game was like, oh hey, that's just slow enough in between attacks that it'll count them.
That's actually reasonable. That's funny. Yeah, it was
horribly broken. It was so much fun.
you know, to each their own. I actually tried to do double range weapons for a time because I thought like, oh, that'd be cool. Like I'll just stay at range and always be firing something. It didn't quite work out the way I'd hoped, but there were some fun ranged weapons. And the nice thing I liked about this game is you kind of unlock these weapons in a position where you have to use them at least for the rest of the level, or at least you're heavily encouraged to use them for the rest of the level. And then, you know, just having that chance to actually play through it and like be like, okay, you know, I get the chance to see it now. I get to decide if I actually want to keep it or not was fun, especially for the carbine. I remember getting the army carbine and being like, this is awesome. Like, this is what I've always wanted. But then I eventually went back to the breaker's bow, which was my main one.
See, I found out the carbine. I didn't realize you had to hold it down to like focus the aim. I was like, man, this thing is so inaccurate. So I just struggled through the entire level, couldn't figure it out. And then it was like, oh, do the challenge. I was like, what am I doing wrong? And I like Googled it. And it's like, I just hold that down. I'm an idiot. I've made this so much harder than it needs to be.
So you were like Revolutionary War up there, just standing in a line, hoping that
I would
shooting would
run
hit
up
something.
to them and then hope I could just pull the trigger and it would count as a hit.
It's a shotgun, but shotgun with only one pellet.
Pretty much.
The shotgun was definitely necessary, I felt, on some of the maps if you didn't have that good spread damage, because there were so many little tiny things that had almost no health, but you needed to get them down before they'd overwhelm you. That was another thing I really liked about the game was the variety of the combat. It was all pretty consistent, but there was enough variety from level to level to kind of make it feel unique.
Yeah, I kind of wish there was more options to switch the weapons around a little bit, other than like going in blindly, not knowing which weapons you'd really like to use. Some of the levels actually have places where you could change the weapons kind of mid-level, but sometimes it's just you get into that level and you're like you're killing yourself because you just got the wrong weapon setups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would have been cool to have a third weapon sometimes, either to like have in the bag that you could switch in and out, or actually have on the wheel.
I like the dueling pistols, or at least I like the idea of the dueling pistols. I thought they were cool. I just wish it was a little bit better. I think it was the reloading on it that was just kind of frustrating to use. But carbine and strap musket were like my favorite. I love both of those.
I liked the Fang repeater and army carbine. The carbine, I loved it. I enjoyed it in the mission that you got it in, and then I kept finding reasons to use it throughout the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I love sniping, and anything I do, I see sniper rifle, and I just, no matter if I'm just totally horrible at it or not, I'm just like, I just want to do that. But the Fang repeater, for me, just because how fast it was, just the fast attacks just worked well for me.
They were all. Go ahead, Goose.
Dueling pistols was my other side of my war machete, which was also if you pull the button, push a button, it'll fire. So this is the flip side. If I had my range, I could just lock on and just shoot a row of bullets.
Oh no!
All the fast reload equips on. You could literally just burn through it. Like it took more time to reload than it did to fire off all like 20 some rounds at the end.
Oh jeez.
So
that sounds amazing.
Stuff. It was so entertaining.
You were just the king of rapid fire. You just rapidly swinging your sword. That's funny.
Close enough. I would just pull my machete out and just chop.
Just experimenting with it, rather. How fast can I get this?
So it sounds like we pretty much played with everything across our group, because I used the bow, you guys had the repeater and the carbide. Yeah, that's interesting that there wasn't one here that seemed to be the most popular one. And I liked.
I tried to like the bow a little bit, but I even went back towards the bow towards the end of the game and just like, nah, this isn't doing it for me.
Oh, the ricochet. The ricochet was real handy for me to mop stuff up. There were, of course, some special weapons we got throughout. The Galleon Mortar and the Calamity Cannon are actually... I think they're in the ranged slot, but you got them kind of near the end of the game, and I didn't use them a ton. And then, of course, the battering ram at the very end of the game. Boy, that was something. And actually, I'll talk a little bit more about this when I get into my portion of what I liked and what I didn't like about the game. It was cool to have like this ultimate destructive weapon, but I hated how slow the battering ram made you. You're just trudging along. It made the last level just feel just not nearly as much fun after everything else that we'd gotten used to.
and it didn't feel like you couldn't have gone through that level with anything else. It's like, okay, so why do I have this? So I'm pretty sure I could have done this with my weapons that I already had.
Well, I think yeah, and it was required, right? You had to pick it up and you had to use it to break down the
Yeah,
walls. Like
yeah.
no getting around
It's
it.
you couldn't drop it or anything. So
So let me put up some gameplay footage here. That's not the way to do it. And we can talk a little bit about kind of the generic base of the game. So a big part of this game obviously was the narrator. Um,
mhm.
this game is a beautiful story that's kind of told in a different way than I at least had experienced in the past. Um, I thought that the narrator was very well done and realize it took me a while to realize that it was the old man in the Bastion that was actually narrating. I don't know if
Yeah.
I should have figured that out sooner or not, but it didn't dawn on me right away.
Yeah, I
Um,
can.
but the way that the story is told, just of like a third person, the kid does this as you are doing the thing, was very very interesting.
It reminds me of I think it's a it's a clip off of Family Guy where Peter gets somebody to narrate his life or something as he does things. I think that's
It's the piano accompaniment, isn't that it?
I don't remember, or he's narrating himself or something, like his life. He's like his own narrator as he like sits down to have breakfast and all this stuff. Um, yeah, I liked it. It was kind of like yeah, as you went, he would narrate what you were doing, kind of thing. I mean, it was
Catch me off guard. It was great.
yeah.
Dude.
Um, yeah, I thought that style was kind of cool because it was like going. It's kind of like reading a book, kind of thing. More like maybe a younger style book, picture book or something, where you're like showing pictures to the kids and you're reading what's going on this stage or whatever.
I'd equate it
The
to kind of
first
like
one that got me was as I was going around. I'm one of those guys that has to break everything around me, and he's like, "Kid just rages a little
Yeah.
bit."
Yeah, so let me jump a
We
bit
fall
here and
off.
I'll unmute it for a second and see if we can get some sweet narrator action.
What's
Um,
for dinner tonight?
oh, I'm just gonna have my voice. That's gonna be
Wrong narrator. That's not the one we're looking for.
I'm gonna need your best old timey voice. Let's hear it.
yeah.
Oh,
That's
you're doing the.
little memory stuff. Yeah, so you can see here. This is a great example of the combat though. There's a lot of like rolling around and dodging. It's all played in this kind of isometric, right? That'd be what it would be called, isometric view.
Yeah, yeah, kind
Um,
of an angled view from top down.
In the history of Caelondia, nobody's ever
So
volunteered
one
for
thing I really
such
did enjoy about the narrator was it wasn't just he would narrate his part and it's like silent protagonist, everyone else can talk. He narrated everyone's parts, didn't he?
yeah, that's true. There were
Yes.
very few times where you'd hear the other characters.
So like
Which
I
I
don't
like
think
that a
you
lot.
ever heard. You didn't hear anybody else really.
Yeah, it's
Um,
just him. You only
so, like-
heard
So like when when you pick up a new item and you go back to the main island that your home base is at, and you talk to the girl, he says what she says.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you didn't really. I don't think there was any other voice at all in the game other than his.
His kind of dictation, yeah, yeah, and
But
that was interesting because I've never seen a game that does something like that before. Like it was a very
Well-
unique.
yeah, they focus on the story more. I mean, even the way that the like
As told by the one individual.
yeah, but like one of my favorite things about the game is probably the map on how it just kind of pops up as you go.
Yeah.
And that's kind of in the same thing as like it narrates as you go and stuff. So it's like you can't really see what's going to happen next or where you're going to go next until the land kind of forms itself.
And it is beautiful. Like this game is so graphically pleasing. I think what you said, Rod, really rings true in that it doesn't matter that this game is 7 years old because the way that it looks is just
It does not look that old at
Yeah.
all.
It's
Those
definitely aged really
plants.
well. The ones that close up.
You're not a fan of
are
those
the reason-
plants.
they were the reason I carried the sniper rifle with me everywhere. I went.
Yeah.
You can
After a
overcharge
while, I was like,
the
okay,
war
I'm done
machete,
with them.
and if you overcharge the war machete for the throw and you get the timing just right, I think you could flick it and just one-shot them.
Yeah.
and that was so nice.
One thing that helped me a lot, especially just because I enjoyed the controller more than the mouse and keyboard. Um, but what helped me with that was like the little auto aim like the little auto lock on
Hmm.
Oh yeah.
that it'll do for the ranged. That I appreciated that. And it allowed me to not get frustrated at aiming in a certain direction with a joystick. My thumbs don't work as well as most, and it allowed me to continue enjoying my surroundings without just getting pissed off that I couldn't
God, this level.
hit something.
Yeah, this was
This level's
nasty.
annoying.
I hated this one with all the projectiles. So you can only block one direction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so what difficulty did you guys play on? Because I think one of the things that I was kind of affronted by the game is that you get a lot of chances to heal and keep yourself alive. And I don't
Wait,
think
was there
I think I only
difficulty
ever
setting?
game over once. There
Was
was
there
something I
Yeah.
guess for difficulty at the
only
very beginning.
the only difficulty setting that I remember of was the where the idols or whatever that you could add to make the game harder.
Yeah.
I didn't think there was an actual difficulty setting.
I think for some reason at the very start there was definitely one, but I think I either played on like the normal or maybe just the one tick above it.
Mhm.
But I definitely felt like being able to heal so much and
Yeah.
making the game easier. I realized that there was a more challenging element to it. Like you could add the extra shrines and stuff, which I think is a good way to do it because there was never a time where I was frustrated with the game's difficulty. Um, but it just
Maybe
kind
the
of struck
map was
me.
frustrating at times, but like the
Yeah.
game never felt like crazy impossible. But sometimes, man, I kept falling off the map, and that's why I get a game. It's like, oh, I can't go through this because I keep like walking off the edge and dying.
The kid had a rough time staying on his feet.
Yeah.
That's so much.
And then, of course, I liked the idea of having your own consumable charges with being able to restore health through the potions that refill as you pick stuff up, and then the
Mhm.
the special abilities I thought were also really cool. Like I
Yeah.
said, I used the bow for a lot of the time, so mine was the bounce shot where it would just bounce all over the place and kill a bunch of small enemies. Um, but that was, I liked how there was three small things, and I know I said earlier, man, it would have been nice to have more weapons, but I liked how you could kind of make a build almost, and that was kind of
Mhm.
just the way that you would play your character.
I would get annoyed when you'd get like one of the new specials and they would take away what you had. And you're like, God damn it! I hate this new special. Where'd my grenade go?
Oh, okay. We want to talk about enemies we don't like. These pin cushions and I did not get along
Yeah.
great.
Oh yeah, those guys right there. They
That
were
one
next on the
challenge
list.
map you do where you have to like get through there super quickly. That one was that was
That's
kind
an
of rough.
ability I did not use ever. The one you just popped out right there.
The decoy, I think this must be the level where you get it and it's
Probably.
automatically just like
As long as you
Graves
focus on
said, you don't
fighting,
have a
you got
choice.
It's like, yeah, this is exactly the whole reason why I hated how that worked.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
'cause
this
it's
is
like the shark thing.
the
Oh
pike.
yeah, those guys.
I love the pike, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Let me see if I can kind of boost
Well,
up to where we fight the boss here.
Yeah, I would use the pike and the shotgun. That way, I'd have a long
There you go.
range
That's the
throw.
boss fight. You
Yeah.
just killed him.
I'd have a long range throw as
Go back
well
a
as
little bit
a
further.
short range burst.
Okay, yeah, here we go. So this is our boss fight against the Anglosaur.
It was like a really weird.
I want
I
to.
think I was like, he had one attack and it was just the same grumpy face. over and over again. And Betsy
I
turning
laughed
left or
every
right is all you got. The first time I gave up, I just cracked up. I was
Oh,
like,
wow,
"I
that's
don't
so
wanna
quick."
kill this dude. He's awesome.
Let me see if I can back it up. I think that there's a.
You better keep running.
There's like a preamble to the fight, but
No, I for some reason I thought that there was a big sound effect that went with it too. Oh, but here we got to listen to this for a second.
Starting to get annoyed.
You hear the music in the background? That's what I want to talk about next. I loved the soundtrack for this game. Like everything was just so well done in terms of the music. It definitely felt out of place sometimes just because the music you were listening to was like not your typical kind of video game music, but for some reason it worked with them having the Bastion and the boss fights, and it was really cool to hear like the sitars and just kind of the different types of music that you don't get to usually hear in games. I'm curious to hear if you guys kind of had the same feelings when it came to the music, or if I was kind of alone on that, because I really enjoyed it.
I'm trying to remember. This is the problem that we played it so long ago. Can't remember if it was this game. It was. I think I was fine with the music. It was enjoyable.
I definitely liked it. It was the. It reminded me of like some '90s style, like electronic with like some, you know, Eastern Asia influence and some Western Asian influences and stuff. And then whenever like certain fights came around, how the music picked up, it just added some more deeper tones. I was like, man, this is good. It's getting good.
So one of the things about this game that weren't present that you normally would get in other games, though, were cutscenes. A lot of the cutscenes are just still images or, um, you know, flashes too, or something like you can kind of see your stuff is moving around, but I wouldn't really call it a cutscene. Do you guys feel like that was something that took away from the game, or would you have felt that would cutscenes have felt out of place for this type of a game?
I think it felt right. I think it matched the art style in general because it's kind of like a static art style almost. So having like an animated cutscene, I don't think the animated cutscene would have added anything, but and it's
Yeah,
a
I think that was.
because it's a narrated storytelling. Um,
Mhm.
I think it just feels better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I would say it was part of the game. Like if it would have been animated or whatever, I think it would have almost taken away from the design and the art of the game.
and that's fair, and that's kind of what I was leaning towards as well. I just wanted to throw it out there in case anyone else felt differently. It's like a lot of the smaller pieces of the story were told through like these collections of relics, which you can just see flashed up there on the screen. The egg that we found, and you talk to the different people, and it says whatever their perspective is on the egg, and things get added to your home base, right? So we can see here the Bastion at this point I think is somewhat repaired. I've got a couple of the other shops that are in place. Over here we've got the armory, or the arsenal where you can pick your weapons, or in this case you can get rid of the sneaky decoy secret skill.
Yeah,
Um, but I liked having this kind of central hub. It was cool to see it kind of build back up, and then the ultimate goal in the game of Bastion, and kind of without ruining anything about the story, is you come from this time where you wake up and the Earth has shattered. Everything you known has just kind of fallen to pieces, and they call it the Calamity. And you're rebuilding the Bastion for who knows why. We'll talk a little bit about it near the end when we get into more of the spoiler section about the endings. So we'll have people kind of mute if they want to avoid those big spoilers. But you're rebuilding the Bastion and seeing it kind of rebuild around you as you get these shards, I thought was cool and unique. Did you guys have any similar feelings you'd like to share about the idea of the maps themselves or like the home base?
I like how, in addition to, so there's the individual levels, and you kind of get a pick from a map. Now, you only get to go to each area once, which kind of confused me as to why we had a map where we could pick our different locations.
Mhm.
But once you found out you could do I don't know how to describe them, like the mastery areas, I guess is what I would think of them as, like the challenges. Anytime you got a new weapon, you'd have to go do the challenge, and you could get rewards in game for doing well at the challenges. And some of them were really fun, and some of them were just utterly miserable. I remember the shotgun one, like taking out all the balloons in a certain number of shots was actually really cool.
Oh, here you go. Here's your carbide there,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fiasco. Bring the sniper out.
there it is
Yes.
right there. See, watch it. Boom. That's why.
Yeah, some
Get
of
the
those
clamor.
challenges were really easy, and then there were others that were just so freaking hard.
The war machete one is impossible. I never beat it.
Oh, really? No, I beat that one.
Oh,
The one I had the hardest time with, I think, was the dueling pistols.
I had the dueling pistols in just like a second, but then again, I was kind of cheating.
He was clicking very, very quickly. That's
so
okay.
that's
It's
where
not
the
a PvP
carbide
game.
was painful right there. Was those?
Maybe that was my problem with the dueling pistols, is I was holding it down, so it was a slow shooting rather than tapping. I don't know, because it felt like it wouldn't go fast enough.
So the uniqueness of how the map kind of pieces together as you're going through it. I really enjoyed that because I didn't know what was coming around the corner, and then it, it made me like want to explore every little aspect. Like, oh, there's a little off the beaten path over here. I can kind of go down, and then as I was going to the next zone, it was just that little bit of excitement, just like, oh man, what's it gonna look like next? What's gonna open up for me?
And again, the artwork that went along with all that, I thought was just really cool. I mean, just like seeing this scene here where we're on like this moving train track. Um, you know, the map
Well,
is dynamic and
it's like all hand drawn art. It's not like a 3 modeled, texturized, uh, no, environment. Um, so it's not like it has to render some really high detailed text or anything on a high polygon piece of environment work or something. So it's I think that's part of the reason why it ages really well. Is
it's kind of the
older.
Nintendo secret, right? There's no graphical settings for this game. You don't turn the graphics up or down. They're just
Yeah.
there.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think, in this case works really well. It doesn't have to have, well, I was almost going to say it doesn't have to have phenomenal graphics, but I think it does. It just doesn't have to have the type of graphics that you might expect.
My only complaint I would have is that sometimes with the map design or the level design, the directions that you had to go, if you went, maybe you had multiple choices of directions you go, and most of them are dead ends except for one.
Hmm.
Well, if you choose the one that's not a dead end, and then you get going too far and you can't go back, so you miss out on stuff in those certain areas. But not that anything in there would have been, really big for you in the game, anyways. It's just, you kind of miss out.
That's
But
the completionist in you.
I went
I
so
did-
far throughout the game before I realized that rolling actually will take out mobs.
Wait, rolling will take out mobs?
I think small ones.
That
Yeah.
is news to me.
Yeah, I was gonna
it's
say
just
that's
that
new to
it's-
me too.
I don't think it takes out anything big.
Yeah.
I figured it was just a
You
great way to
actually just did it a
reposition.
while ago, like in the video, like you rolled and hit something. And
Huh. Well, I didn't know that either. Interesting. Yeah, because I thought that was just a key piece of the movement to kind of reposition and get yourself to where you needed to be. Because this game is simple in that there are 3 buttons, right? You have your primary weapon, you have your ranged weapon or your secondary weapon, and then you have your special ability. You have your button to restore health with your potions, and you have your roll, and that's it.
And block.
And block, yeah, okay, sorry. So actually like 6 buttons. But it's very, very simple and if you wanted to, like, you could easily build this into an arcade cabinet, which would be actually kind of a cool little arcade cabinet. If anybody
yeah.
out there wants to do any craftsmanship, that could be pretty neat. Because I actually could see this game being kind of one of those games that people look back to and it's I don't want to use the word cult classic because that's not quite right, but like it's got staying power with the graphics. It's a unique story. It's a fun game. It's super easy and fun to play. And it doesn't take a ton of time to beat. I mean, I think I probably put maybe 10 hours into the game before it was done. I didn't do all the challenges and stuff, but I felt like I got to see everything I wanted to, and I didn't by any means rush through the story. Does that sound about right? Is that?
Let me look at it. I want to see how long it took.
Checking in Steam now. I want to know.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I played through it twice. Yeah, so 13 hours total gameplay, and I beat it twice. I did all the weapons. I did all the weapon challenges and made sure I did all 3 stages or whatever. Basically, I got all 3 prizes from each one. There were a couple things back at the home base where you could go into like another story and do challenges. In fact, I think I saw on the video there, Nate, that you were doing that earlier. And I did that like once, and it was like nonstop stage after stage of like enemies just constantly coming at you.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the one that goes for like 30 levels?
Yeah, I ended up dying at some point, and it was like, man, that took me forever. I'm not doing that again. And I think there was more. It wasn't just that one. Like when you bring back stuff like the cookware, I want to say there was something with the cookware. There was like a pipe that you smoked, as well that took you into like a dream state that you were doing,
Yep.
and there was more narration and stuff. There were like multiple different like side stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I went through the game twice and did everything as maxed out everything, got every shrine, every potion, every weapon upgrade, in only 13 hours.
So yeah, if you were booking it, I mean, you could probably speed run this game if you knew what you were doing in a matter of what, 3 or 4 hours. Like if you really.
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty
If
sure
you're
that's.
speedrunning, yeah. I don't think that'd be a challenge. Skip all the content and just run.
Mhm.
I don't think that would be too difficult because I mean, my second time through, I beat it in like one sitting, and it wasn't a very long sitting. I think 3 hours is easy to do.
I only went through it once, and of course my move to Japan was getting in the way of a lot of this. But it was, so I didn't do too much of the challenges, or I didn't do the second inning or anything like that. It only took me 7 hours to get through the game.
Okay. So yeah, maybe I
To
was
put things
even
in
long.
perspective, guys. The last games done quick, they beat Bastion in under 15 minutes.
Wow. Wow.
Although, is that
Was that an
is
any
that
percent?
Yeah,
I think that was an any percent.
Okay, so they might have
was
I
done
don't know
some.
if it was a glitch-free run either.
Yeah,
but
that's
still.
I mean, they could
How
have done
fast
some
was it?
like skipping or something,
Under 15 minutes, I think you said.
Oh wow, Jesus.
which I don't think is possible without skipping something or glitching something.
Yeah.
There's
you
like-
gotta-
There's like animations and dialogue and stuff that you can't rush through.
At the same time, though, I didn't feel like the game ended too soon. Like, the story was well paced, the objectives were clearly stated. I felt like when I got to the end, I was like, I'm not ready to be done. Like, I want to play a little bit more, but I felt like I was okay with where it was at.
I think
was
there was
definitely satisfied.
so many options for like the different weapon like setups because I tried a lot of different things to try to find something I would enjoy using a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just doing that, like, it made the game seem like it lasted a little bit longer. If you were stuck with like the one range weapon and the one melee weapon, and you were just going through the game, I think it would be pretty dull and boring. But
Yeah.
Here's
playing
a,
with those
Alright,
other weapons.
here's a question I
Update
have
from
for you guys.
speedrun.com. That was the any percent. The all story levels was 45 minutes. That seems
Okay.
slightly more manageable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's a question I had for you guys. Is there a way to go back and replay the ones that you've already beaten, the levels, and like get the shards
Not-
again?
Not in the same story. You have to. You can
You
come
just
back.
have to new game plus it.
Okay.
Yeah, you basically if you play it like when you play it again, you come back and you get to keep everything that you had before.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I was we all kind of went away from this for a while and then came back and finally got to our review. So I was gonna go back and replay some of the levels just to re-familiarize myself with it, and I could only do the last one again because that was kind of where the end game state was at.
Yeah.
And I was kind of surprised by that because I guess you do have the new game plus, which kind of covers that issue. But I was surprised that you couldn't go back through and do stuff again just for the fun of it, or like to
I think-
collect the shards here that I'm picking up.
Well, Gibbs, I think you were the one that said that it was kind of weird how the map selection was, whereas like you could choose where to go, but then on the levels you could only choose it once.
Yeah, it's just like, what's
That
the
wa-
point
that
of
was-
letting me, like, it was cool seeing the path that he took, but, I mean, barring any spoilers, preemptive spoiler alert, like, the path really doesn't, like, the individual destinations don't matter. It could have just been first map, last map. The ones in between you really don't notice, it's just for telling the story.
Yeah, at first when I was doing it, I thought you could go back and play the map over because that's how it seemed on how the choices were. But yeah, that was odd. Although it makes sense for the story. I mean, some of those places I don't think were around.
There we go.
fail.
I fell off so many
Yeah.
times.
Yep, I was just waiting for. I was sitting here waiting for that to happen. I knew it was gonna come eventually. Especially
I do
in
love how
that.
pretty much everything in the environment was destructible too. Like, I loved that you could just walk up and chop at anything, and most of the time you could cut it in half. That was cool.
Those what are those things called? The blue guys.
Oh, that's a great question. What are they called? They're like the main.
I really liked the design of the creeps and stuff.
were they gas sacks or something?
Gas bags or something.
Gas
Windbags,
bags.
windbags,
Windbags. There you go. Yeah.
windbags. Yeah. No, I agree. The enemy design was, again, there wasn't, there was just enough to keep it fresh.
Oh, I hated the plant-based ones.
Oh yeah,
Plant-based
all
ones
the
suck.
plant-based ones stunk.
That's
If
the whole
the
reason.
Plant-based ones. It
The
was
whole
just- you
reason
could
I
do,
use a
like,
carbine.
if any of the developers from Supergiant Games are out there, thank you for making this game. If you were the one that made the plant-based enemies, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. We did not like that part of the game.
So frustrating. You get hit and you can't even see them in some places because they have such long range.
Yep. So let's
They
let's.
always-
Sorry, go ahead.
They always shoot one direction. Like the only one that can hit you from like a weird direction is the one that shoots literally in a spiral, and that one you literally have a homing circle of, hey, I'm right here. Like
Did you
I don't know
just
if you're having trouble with plants, dude. They don't move.
look at that one, the little blue one that tracks you? Then there was the
Yeah,
one
you
before
put your
that
shield
that
up.
was.
They've just
Shield
got
up,
the.
get close, shotgun, boom, done.
There you go. Or you just have
Unless they're on
dueling
their own floating-
pistols that you can shoot.
Yeah.
You know.
Or rapid fire dueling pistols.
I don't
Those
want
are
to
always
hear
good choice.
about how it's easy for somebody who is hacking their controls.
Is there anything big that you guys want to talk about before we go into our individual reviews? I feel like we talked about the artwork, we talked about the gameplay, we talked about the music.
Why the hell does he fall on his face every time he comes into a level?
You think he would figure it out, like how to land properly, but
Uh,
all right, cool. So let me stop that. Oh, what was that I just closed? Was that important? No. Okay, we're good. All right. Make sure we're still good. Yes, perfect. Okay, so we'll start with our friend Carson, who unfortunately wasn't able to join us. He's got a big test he's studying for, but he did give us some feedback he wanted to share. 8 out of 10 from him. He thought that the game was fun and challenging. The side missions were rewarding with the upgrades to the weapons and skills. He liked that there were lots of abilities and weapons to tailor to your playstyle, kind of like what we talked about earlier with making your own build. But he did feel that the controls on the mouse were a little clunky with the angled map, which I would agree with. I used the controller for most of this game because of that. He says he also ran off the edge quite a few times because of the isometric view and then the control with the mouse and keyboard. So I would definitely relate to a lot of what Carson said there, especially the keyboard and mouse. I used the controller for most of the times that I played it at first, and then coming back this last time, I used the keyboard and mouse, and it was a different experience. It wasn't quite as much fun. And we would have follow-ups from him, but he's not here. So we'll just move on to Graves. 7 out of 10 for you, Graves. What's the dig?
Yeah, I mean it was a fun game. I enjoyed it, but I would not count this as a game as I would want to play like a bunch. I probably won't come back and play it again. I thought like the level design, the gameplay was fun. There was just enough very irritating moments to make it difficult. I did not enjoy. I thought the ending was kind of stupid. Both endings were kind of stupid because it really meant nothing. And any choices you had, which I think the only choice you had was whether you picked up the guy at the end or not, that meant nothing.
So I'm gonna
I don't
add the spoiler alert tag in here.
Yeah, that's
and
why I was
you
trying
you
to
are
make
you
sure.
are officially free to
Okay.
to add your spoilers in there.
All right, so the two endings. One where you complete the thing and it basically resets time, but essentially you don't know whether that resets it and you just do the same thing over again. Or you leave the Bastion with the girl, and that's that. It's like what? Okay.
Yeah. So the whole goal of the game was to restore the Bastion. We didn't know why until the very end, and then those were the two options, right? You either turn back time and you undo this calamity, we think, or maybe you just go back and you are at the beginning of the game again.
Yeah.
Or you travel somewhere else and you just say, screw everybody that was lost in the calamity.
Yeah, and it's like the whole story was kind of like, oh, this is dumb. And I didn't like the whole idea of okay, we build up our home base. We spend all this time getting these crystals, building the thing. Midway through the game, something happens, it all goes away. Then you do it all over again, and it's like that's just kind of frustrating that you're basically doing the first half of the game in the second half of the game, and I don't know, you don't really learn a whole lot. There's some things that you learn story wise. For such a story driven game, I thought there would be more detail into what a little bit more. It gives you okay. It's just not quite as much as I would have expected from a game like this. But overall, I love the gameplay. I thought the gameplay was fun. I love all the different weapons. It gave you a lot of choices of a lot of different gameplay styles. The challenges I enjoyed because they were difficult, and you had to play. You learned how to. You kind of learned how to master each weapon in each of those. So that was kind of fun, and you could kind of learn different strategies to use with those weapons after you went through those. Um, while the maps were kind of cool and unique and stuff, they were unique in look, but a lot of the gameplay seemed very the same over and over again. But this would, I guess, in a way, I don't know if any of you guys played Castle Crashers back uh, years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah, yep.
And it's like you play through the game, you beat everything, and then you start over and you can play through the game. And that's kind of what the feeling I got. It was like it's kind of a weird circle of how the game, like you end the game and they actually influence you to come back and play through the game again. And there's some cool stuff of adding difficulty and stuff. But overall, I enjoyed the game. I just thought there was certain things there I personally don't like in styles of games. I don't know. It doesn't pull me in to have to play it, want to play again. It's more like they're trying to pull me in for more challenges, which I'm not really big on coming back for more challenges.
Coming back for more ass whooping.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Goose with the 7.856 out of 10.
So there's a reason I gave this very specific score. Is that's exactly how many attacks per second when you map your bindings. Anyways, I generally like the game. As far as indie games go, this is actually one that I think. I mean, it's a 7-man crew that made this, and you can clearly show that they put a lot of time into it. It has a lot more polish than some of the other indie games we've played.
Here, here.
And I really respect that in them. The music was fantastic. Their art style was very distinct, but they owned it so well. The fact that it was a narrator, a single soul narrator for all the parties, it's kind of like when you're being told the story by someone else. I really appreciate that. That was a cool way of going about doing things. You hear so many silent protagonists where it's everyone's talking but you. In this case, it's you're literally just talking with one guy who's telling you everything that's happening. I thought that was kind of cool as a different take on things.
I hadn't thought about the silent protagonist part. I think that's a great point. Sorry to interrupt. I just that
No, yeah.
that's a very good point. Sorry, continue.
Let's see. The combat, yeah, I mean, part of it got a little repetitive. Some of the enemies, I thought they did a good job of changing it up every once in a while. The plot itself, God, that was just sad though. It's like, oh well, everyone's dead, all your friends, like everyone you knew. Also, you're like an orphan or something, and all you did was just go to war. And then, oh yeah, it turns out the cause of this is because we tried to commit genocide and murder everyone that has white hair. And you're just like, dude, what the hell? This is so dark. It's like, yeah, do you want to reset time back to when we were all super racist and trying to kill everybody? Yet no, I'm gonna take this one cool girl and we're gonna dip. Like,
Is that what she did?
clearly there was a correct choice in that game. I played through both endings, but there was a correct final answer.
Yeah.
Don't save the dude, fly off in the sunset. You're good. But all in all, I liked it. I thought it was a fun game. As far as indie games go, I think if you like indie games, if you like playing things you don't have to invest a ton of time into, this is not going to be your next World of Warcraft, but I think you definitely enjoy this, especially when I give a shout out to a game that really still looks and plays quite well, even given its age.
Good points. Good points. Fiasco, your thoughts? 8 out of 10.
Hi. Yeah, 8 out. I enjoyed this game, from the beginning. The narrator, like the tone in his voice, the style, the way he narrated was perfect. I think, and then how many responses he had to your actions was just I would just have to stop and just laugh a little and just realize what he just said. The music and the artwork, the music was great for me. That was one of the higher um, the better attributes to me. Specifically, there was one song that I was just like really dig every time I played, and I looked it up. It's called Terminal March, and whenever that song would play, I was just get into it. I was like, I just want to stop and jam out to this song real quick. So I liked it, and the artwork. We've kind of discussed that one quite a bit during the reviews. How gorgeous the artwork was. Every map, I couldn't wait to see what the map was going to unfold uh, as it formed up in front of me. Combat was good. Combat was they made it easy for us less skilled joystick controller guys, which I appreciated. I didn't get an opportunity to see how many challenges I can knock out, but this is definitely one of those games where I'll go back and see where I can manipulate with all the different variations of what were they called, the little challenge things you can implement.
Oh, the shrines.
The shrines.
Yeah, the shrines. Yeah, see
Mhm.
where I can like manipulate the shrines and see what challenges I can complete and which ones I cannot, and then what variations of the potions or the serums or what were they
The liquors.
the
Yep.
liquors. Yeah, to get through on those, and it's with even though the story is short, with all of those different adjustments that you can make,
Mm-hmm.
the replayability on this is pretty solid. I think with the games plus, of course, you have to get through the two stories. I too agree with Goose on the option at the end, um, but I didn't get the opportunity to go back and choose the other. So I appreciate you guys helping me with that. But I won't have to do that now. But really great game. I'm glad I've had this game in my inventory for a few years now, and I just haven't really opened it up. So I'm glad we did this and chose this game to get me through it. Kind of disappointed that I didn't do it sooner.
Fiasco, unplayed games in a Steam inventory? Who are you? That doesn't happen.
Man, yeah.
If you have a Steam account, I think you have a number of unplayed games in there because I've had Bastion for a long time, and I played very little of it when I first got it.
And if anybody, I invite you to take a look at my Steam inventory and anything that y'all want to try together, please let me know because it's quite girthy. And always looking for motivation.
golf with your friends.
Yep. Definitely golf with the friends. That was good. Man, I wanted to join you guys on the Extra Life too on that one. It's just my schedule didn't line up with y'all's.
Oh, it was a blast. I did get
Such a
I
fun
did
game.
get a score from Bjorn. He had played this game a long time ago, so he went back and revisited it a little bit. 8 out of 10, but I unfortunately didn't get his finer points. So I think he probably empathized with a lot of the stuff that we said. Um, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. You guys know I usually rate a little bit high. For me, here's what really ruined it. We already talked about all the great stuff. You know, I won't beat a dead pincushion. Um, but for me, the game was so great leading up to the end. I was having so much fun, and then walking through that final level, it was so slow, and the final decision, it was okay, but it wasn't up to my expectation. So getting to the very end of the game, it was fun to be like, yes, I finally did it. I'm done. I've got the sense of accomplishment of beating it, but I was disappointed by the story and the kind of the end game um, being a little bit less exciting than I'd hoped. As far as the replayability, I think that definitely relies on who you are, right? So obviously, Fiasco is much more kind of completion based than Graves is, and I think that lends itself well to what type of a gamer you want to be when you play the game. So there's opportunity to go back through, turn on all the shrines, unlock everything, get the 100%. I for one don't know how you could possibly do that. I turned some of the shrines on and just got just pub stomped by those things. So I don't know if you guys played with any more than like one or two of those things on, but I ended up turning them all off just to roll through the game. So there is some difficulty that is available in this game if you're the kind of player that wants to look for that kind of thing. Or you can just cruise through and you can be done with it in probably 4 hours. So I would recommend it just for that. Last I checked, it was $15, not on sale on Steam. So even though it is an older game with a small team, I think that I think that Supergiant Games, you guys crushed it. Great work on this game. I definitely appreciate you guys putting that out there because for an indie game, it met and exceeded my expectations. This is the part where we would normally do our vote for next month. However, we've been gone for so long, we need to do a little reviewer's choice. We got to kind of regroup a little bit and determine if Games Club is still something that we want to try and do regularly, maybe a little bit more regularly than we previously have. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to do a book club, and we're going to try and say before the new year, everyone's going to come together and they're going to say one game that they played. They're going to say what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it, and we'll try and kind of give you guys a quick little bite-sized 15-minute review of each of the games that we play so you can then take that and fill your Steam library up with games that you will undoubtedly play very soon that might sit there and collect dust for a few years. With that, is there any closing comments? Anybody in the chat have any questions that we can answer, or anything else we wanna cover before we wrap up the Games Club review of Bastion? Gentlemen,
You know, I think we've said everything there is to say. It's a good game. We enjoyed it, but it could definitely go for a couple different variations. I think Supermassive has put out a couple new games since then, haven't they?
you know
Didn't
that's
they
a.
also do Transistor, I want to say?
Let me pull up their page here.
Yes, I think they did. That does look like a very. It looks like a game that they would do. It looks very similar.
Their three
Yeah,
titles that
think
I
they have some
see are
solid ones.
Bastion, Transistor in 2014, and Pyre in 2017.
Yeah, I think all three of those have very solid games.
Yeah.
Unique and very enjoyable. Pyre is one that I want to try out. I haven't had the opportunity yet, but
Described as a mix of Dota, Rocket League, and Transistor. I'm
What?
not sure how that works, but that's what Wikipedia says.
Interesting.
yeah, I have it. Yeah, I haven't opened it up. I have it on my. It's another one on my inventory. Just haven't opened it up.
Might have to check it out. All right, well, let's wrap it up then. Let's call this another successful Games Club review. Bastion team, thank you guys very much for the game. Reviewers, as always, Graves, Goose, Fiasco, love having you guys here. Thank you for spending the time to play the game. Thank you for putting your thoughts down. Sorry that it took so long for us to put this out there. For those of you that have been eagerly awaiting the Games Club review, always great to have you back. We'll try and be a little bit more regular in the future.
Hell yeah.
All right. We'll talk to you all soon. Have a good one.
Bye.